Now, on the flip side, Bulbrock, a very poor way to spend your money maybe was last March in free agency when certain teams decided to cherry pick a couple Cardinals. Subsequently, now those two teams 0-6. I'm talking about Zach Allen with the Denver Broncos and our boy Byron Murphy with the Minnesota Vikings. 0-6, two guys that left the Cardinals. And a lot, I remember doing that show that day in March. I wasn't freaking out. You weren't either. But, there was some upheaval. Why are you letting guys go in their mid-20s? This is a huge mistake. Already a big indictment on Ossenfort. Nobody wants to play for you.
Right.
And now we sit here, and it's like, in hindsight, they couldn't have handled that better, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're starting to see the forest through the trees, aren't they? Where they couldn't necessarily do that before. They just didn't see that this was a rebuild, and throwing money at guys from the previous regime to be kind of a Band-Aid or just somebody that they can fill a hole with wasn't something they wanted to do right now. They wanted to kind of clean house. They wanted to get the roster down to the studs and then to start to build their own foundation with guys that they're going to draft and they're going to develop. And they haven't hidden from that. Monti Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon have maintained that they're going to be a draft and develop team going forward. Now, are they going to maybe make a trade for a corner at some point beyond this season, or an edge rusher or somebody in the interior of that defense, or a wide receiver? I wouldn't put that, past them. But for the most part, the bulk of their roster is going to be from guys that they identified at the collegiate level and then drafted and then developed at the NFL level under the tutelage of the coaching staff, Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rollis, Drew Petzing and crew, and their other talented position coaches. So, that was at the time, sure, I think for a fan base that didn't have a whole lot to root for, and the few players that they could kind of hang their hat on that were successes drafted in this organization and found success onto the free agent market, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a necessary evil as far as just ridding yourself and not, putting the team in a position to pay a big guaranteed dollar amount going forward to guys who aren't going to be here for part of the solution when this organization goes back to the next level and back to relevance.
I'm going to get to this comment friend of the program, Dylan Richards. They would still be good depth, even with them losing. Zach Allen would be our best defensive line guy. I don't disagree with a lot of that. But to Bo's point, they got paid. Byron Murphy got paid less than Zach Allen got a nice starting defensive line contract. I'm happy he got it. Does anybody think he's worth it? I'm going to read you some statistics right now. So he has played, it looks like, about 150 snaps this year. He's got 11 tackles. He's got 1 hurry. He's got no sacks, right? He's got 3 pressures. Cardinals manufactured that in a quarter against the Commanders. His PFF grade, again, take it with a grain of salt, 55 with a 58 pass rush grade. He got paid to rush the passer. 3 games, doesn't have a sack. How about Byron Murphy? Byron Murphy said no to the Cardinals, went to Minnesota. His PFF grade, 45.8. I've watched him with my own eyes, has not been good this year. No. Any interceptions? Nope. How many missed tackles?
When he looked good last?
When?
In practice against Cole McCoy.
Yeah,
that was the last time I saw Byron Murphy compete and look like he could compete, and it's unfortunate. And I expect him to turn around from a 45. That's right around where Kei'Trel Clark is getting his PFF grade is. And Topic 64, I know you're probably wanting to slam your computer or wherever you're watching this show because you see that PFF is flawed and very flawed, right? But Kei'Trel is out there competing. The numbers are comparable. But one's making a 6th-round rookie salary, and the other got $8 million that can, I think, get to as high as 12 in Byron Murphy. So
Byron
I'd much
Murphy's
rather take a guy like Kei'Trel Clark.
Passer rating to opposing receivers. I don't know if Kei'Trel Clark's doing that. That's beyond PFF. You can find those statistics on other sites. When targeting Byron Murphy, opposing quarterbacks have 125 passer rating.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinal defense probably doesn't allow 125 as a whole. I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
And you think about that, and that's absurd. So I'll
do the receiver that left.
Who's that?
DeAndre Hopkins. What are his numbers look like compared to let's say his replacement is Michael Wilson.
Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins right now has, and he's a PFF darn. He's got a PFF grade of 70.7. 153 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns this year. Passer rating when targeted, however, 44.3. I mean, again, you want D-Hop on your team. You want Byron Murphy. You want Zach Allen. Their cumulative price tag is probably over $55 million a year. I mean, the Cardinals were going to pay D-Hop like $30 million. Zach Allen wanted to be a $15 to $20 million player, and Byron Murphy almost got $10 million a year. So for a team, again, the Cardinals are trying to assess what they have. You know, friend of the program, Kyle Odegaard, had a good tweet today about like the fact that the starting defense that limited Dak Prescott was making like a cumulative, what, like $20 million or something like that. I mean, it's unbelievable. But we knew this is what they wanted to do the minute they signed Kazir White in free agency. Like,
how about
go ahead.
How about the back and forth between Kyle Odegaard and DeAndre Hopkins on Twitter?
See, I don't think a lot of people saw that because D-Hop deleted his tweet.
It's not just that tweet. It's been a back and forth. Like, I think D-Hop initially pushed back on Kyle, who pointed out that I think Michael Wilson has more receiving yards than Hopkins does this year. Right. And then Hopkins says, "Don't you cover the Cardinals?" I'm paraphrasing the tweet. And then the one that you're referencing, what did he point out?
Hopkins went after Kyle Odegaard's dogs and said they were like the ugliest dogs you've ever seen. And it was just, I sent it to Bo at like 11 p.m. the other night. I'm like, what a world is this season taking? The turns that it's taking. We knew D-Hop searched his own name on Twitter, though. Because like over the course of the free agency saga, as the Cardinals were trying to trade him, and we were putting out show titles of like, no one wants D-Hop. D-Hop needs to stop talking on opposing podcasts. He would like our tweets, our individual tweets, our show tweets. So like, I love D-Hop. Like, he's made his money. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Like, don't get off Twitter. You and Kevin Durant, you don't.
Yeah, don't search your name. Don't search your name any longer.
Twitter, Andre Hopkins, but
he was very complimentary of Michael Wilson. He's like, I like Michael Wilson. I think he's going to be a great player. He was doing a lot of great things at Stanford. Well, I was a 5-time All-Pro. By the way, bro, your dogs are ugly. It was like, that's like a Trump insult. It's like, your dogs are ugly. Everybody knows.
You've got an ugly porch swing. I've seen the people that live on your street. They're not good looking. Joel, $4.99. Bo, did JG say anything about Garrett Williams or Maji?
He did.
Joel, thank you so much for the super chat.
Yeah. Joel, I'm glad you asked. He did say that Garrett Williams is trending in the right direction, and obviously they got to they can make a decision on Monday, just like Kyler Murray, and they can make a decision on Myjai Sanders. Guys that have been rehabbing their respective injuries. Sanders had the hand injury way back in training camp, and then Garrett Williams, he's almost a year out from when he suffered his torn ACL playing for Syracuse against Notre Dame. And I think that, I saw Garrett Williams out there in the open portion of practice. He wasn't in like the rehabbing side of things. Now he obviously does rehab, but he was shadowing almost, just kind of mulling around the cornerbacks. I think he's close. And the things that Jonathan Gannon, or at least what Gannon said to him, by the way, Gannon came in, talk about fire in his gut. He had a little extra fire in his gut today when he was talking to everybody. He seemed to maybe give us more information than we've seen the last couple of weeks. And it's not a coincidence as after his first win. But he said that Garrett Williams is trending, and he's got a couple of things he needs to do, but he's encouraged by his progress. And I think that there's a very good realistic opportunity that he becomes activated or reinstated from the non-football injury list come next week when he's eligible. And Maje, I think the same could be said for him.
Well, 3 positions of notes: cornerback and pass rusher and quarterback. I mean, those are 3 elite positions that the Cardinals need help at and to be elevated at. I mean, I'm concerned about the cornerback depth. This is exactly what this team needs. And the pass rush depth the pass rush itself has disappeared at times during some of these games. And so I think Myjai Sanders has the lengthy athleticism to seamlessly come back in. And the good thing for Myjai as compared to Kyler and Garrett, not a lower body injury. It was a fluke hand injury. We saw him. He looked good at training camp. I think he's somebody along with B.J. Ojulari that hopefully they'll be able to mix and match on third down. But I mean, this team, it's like the opposite of what we've experienced the last couple of years. They're getting healthy, right? Like SOS Buda Baker, like come back Buda when you're ready. But the team has really good safety depth. They have really good depth on their front 7 because no one player they're overly dependent on outside of maybe Kazir White. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see these guys play.
Where do they play though? Garrett Williams is a really interesting case because, I mean, Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawls are rolling with Marco Wilson and Kei'Trel Clark because they know to get better.
I don't know if rolling is the right term.
You think that just by necessity, just by default, like we are barely seeing any Antonio Hamilton, any Christian Matthew. Like, do you think that once they have somebody that they trust and that they want to get up to speed, that will become a true rotation? And that
I think the best corner on the team is also the best safety right now on the team in Jalen Thompson.
Yeah.
So I would say Marco Wilson and Kei'Trel Clark could be spared, for depth purposes by Garrett Williams on occasion. Maybe not Kei'Trel Clark because they are convinced like he's going to play.
I think Marco suffers playing time or snaps going to a guy like Garrett Williams more so than Kei'Trel.
That's the point I was trying to make. Yeah. Not very well. Kei'Trel Clark is Jonathan Gannon's baby, and Jalen Thompson is the MVP of the secondary right now. And those two guys play corner. So who's the odd man out? And I like Marco Wilson, and I've been a supporter of his, but I also think like he had a pass interference penalty that got picked up that really could have screwed them over against Dallas. And if you go back, of course, Cowboy fans have pulled screenshots. He got there early. Like the Cardinals got bailed out because that ball goes on the 1 yard line. They're ramming Tony Pollard in for 6 late in that game. Garrett Williams, to me, like, you got to get him on the field. I mean, we love Michael Wilson. Garrett Williams went like 30 picks ahead of Michael Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, and he had top 50, maybe first round tape before his injury at Syracuse. If he's healthy, and like, I don't know how much we can reveal, Bo. Like, I saw him at training camp and he looked good. And so when they activate him, I think it's going to be, let's just say like maybe Garrett Williams needs less practice time than Kyler Murray. Like I could see him being active and then, okay, play a little special teams here. We'll sub you in and out. It's different. The quarterback comes in. You got to be ready to handle everything. Whereas Majay and Garrett slowly, like what they're doing with BJ Ojulari, right? 17 snaps, 16 snaps, 18 snaps. You got to get Garrett Williams out there ASAP because he's missed a whole year. You got to get him out there.
Yeah, and get him back into football shape. I don't know if maybe I don't see, like, sometimes teams utilize the slot as a way to ease guys back in, but I think that JG and Rollis view that as too much of an important position. The conflict that tight ends give up to you in traveling sometimes with some of the receivers there. It's too tough to just put somebody in there. So I'm sure they'll kind of they're going to eat. I mean, we're seeing what they're doing with BJ Ojulari. I can't imagine that it's that much different, even though the position is different. They're still premium spots, but very different as far as how they operate and how, getting put out there on an island is much different than just trying to get after a quarterback, and especially at the NFL level with no experience.
AZ Fan 1998, friend of the program, $2 super chat. This draft class will get us to the promised land. Certainly feels like this draft class, Bo, is a foundation for what they want to do short-term, long-term. And again, like, I'm not going to sit here and say like all these guys are going to be stars, all pros. I think Paris Johnson Jr. will be. But again, like, the bar is so low. Can we just get people like second contracts? Can we get people you're not embarrassed to put on the field? You string together 2 or 3 drafts, you're a Super Bowl contender. That's what 2 or 3 drafts of quality talent acquisition mixed in with some key free agent signings, and you've got high-end quarterback play. You're competing for a championship. And I think the Cardinals, I know it's premature. I think Cardinals have gone 1 for 1. This is not a red shirt draft class. This is a draft class that, can you imagine where these guys are going to be this time next year? I mean, Paris is going to be knocking on the door for Pro Bowl votes. And then everybody else, like Michael Wilson's like, yeah, I've been a starter for a year. I'm ready to take the next step. Kei'Trel Clark, BJ Ojulari, right? I mean, depending on when we see, Owen Papo and the Stills, the kid, the 7th rounder's been playing. Like, they are getting
Dermacado is their primary third down back.
That's that I have an issue with, but yeah, everything else.
What's your big issue with that?
I don't see. I mean, he looks like a jack, like just a guy, and that's disrespectful to him. He's an undrafted kid, but I think there's a.
Would you rather them put like a Rondell Moore there and then?
Yeah, and I just this we talked about it ad nauseum and during training camp. Like I didn't love the running back depth. They don't have a Chase Edmonds-esque type of compliment unless it is Rondell Moore. Dermacado is just too slow for me. Like, he's a little bit undersized compared to Keontae and James. Like, if you're going to be undersized, you're going to play that third down role. They clearly are trying to do that with him. you got to be able to outrun some people. And he just looks trying to take the edge on some of these passes. He looks slow to me. And
I mean, yeah, Papa's the only guy that's not really contributing, and that's not us saying that's not a knock or indictment on him.
The high end play they're getting from everybody else.
They're getting solid play there, and I think he was a guy that they envisioned as a project. You know, he's somebody that projects to becoming, you know, someone like a Kazir White. I mean, they're built similarly. They've got similar skill set. It's just going to take some time, and you got White right now playing some of the best football of his career. And you've got guys in front of you that I think are playing important roles in this defense, and especially down close. I mean, you can't have any breaks or busts as far as that goes. So Paris Johnson playing like a 6 overall pick. We talked to him today. I'll put some of the clips up on Twitter at PHNX_Cardinals in my own. But, you know, he said one of his things about facing Micah Parsons last week is he was kind of upset that he didn't get more opportunities against Micah Parsons because they move him around. And you love to hear that. And he doesn't seem, he said, like, the biggest difference between the NFL and playing at Ohio State and the Big Ten is like, you don't get Western Kentucky. It's like you're facing week in and week out top tier talent, but at the same time, he doesn't feel like it's that much different than going up against like the really good D1 schools, like say the Michigans. And he hasn't seemed overwhelmed at any moment. And that's been echoed by his coaching staff and his teammates as well. So you got Paris Johnson playing at that level. BJ Ujulari is being worked in as he gets healthier and healthier, you know, anywhere between 10 to 20% of the snaps in that he's in the rotation. And then you've got Garrett Williams pretty much on the precipice of coming back. Michael Wilson, your top receiver. And then you've got John Gaines, unfortunately lost for the season. Papo, Tunes, the backup quarterback. Kei'Trel Clark, your 6th round pick. And then your 7th round pick, Dante Stills. And then Dermacado as an undrafted free agent. I mean, you've got contributions from your draft class and beyond from first-year players. I mean, got to love what you've seen from what Monti Ossenfort's done so far.
If Paris Johnson Jr. puts Nick Bosa on his ass on Sunday at any point, I'm going to become emotional at BetMGM. Topic 64, $4.99. Garrett Williams is a dog. Trell and Williams will hit and tackle. I like them both. You got to tackle if you're a JG corner. Cardinals didn't tackle particularly well against Dallas, too. So I think that's one area they're going to improve upon this Sunday. And, of course, this Sunday, myself, Bo Brock, Britton Golden, the playmaker, Damon Dog behind the mic. We're going to be all at BetMGM. Come out for the watch party. One more plug for it. Again, premier watch parties you can't find anywhere else. You can't make it to the road game. Come and spend your day with us. Again, we're going to be there in the morning, sampling some appetizers, sampling some drink specials, and we're going to buckle up for some Arizona Cardinal football. Bo Brock, buckle up. We are off tomorrow. Again, keep it locked in. PHNX Sports is where you're going to get all your Arizona sports coverage. Right now, the Suns, white hot. The Diamondbacks, red hot en route to the postseason. How about your sweet baby Arizona Cardinals exceeding expectations here